Chapter 21 XXI The Escaped Knight. Chapter 21:12. The Escaped Knight. Stop crying there. You're such a grown man, making a fool of yourself everywhere. The demon hunters from the kingdom of Gion are here. Lister saw Archer in such a pathetic state that he couldn't even get onto the bed, let alone chop someone up. Fortunately, he had mastered the correct password over the years. Archer was so frightened by these words that his blood ran cold. He leaned on the stone chair and barely managed to stand up. He unbuckled the leather belt on his back and drew out a uniquely designed heavy weapon, which he held in his hand. This weapon is called a curved sword, and it looks a bit like a large Nepalese kukri. Lister heard Archer say that he had never received any combat training, but before becoming a head chef, he worked day and night processing meat, skinning, removing tendons, bones, and internal organs. Over the years, he could butcher an ox with his eyes closed. In the kingdom of Gion, there is a famous dish of eating monkeys. For Archer, cutting down people is as easy as cutting down monkeys. He also mastered other combat skills after cutting down a few people without any teacher. He is a naturally gifted player. Being a cook isn't just about skill. You need arm strength to feed dozens or even hundreds of people. Archer used to think being a sous chef was tough, but he never expected that becoming a head chef would be even tougher. After not working for 6 months, he was forced to leave the kitchen. Before, the dishes didn't move, but now the dishes have to move. Where? Archer's adrenaline surged, as if his liver's metabolic capacity increased dozens of times, and he sobered up considerably in an instant. No, I'm lying to you. Watch your eyes, or someone might die. Lister said that if Archer continued to drink, he might one day be so drunk that he wouldn't even know if a thief slit his throat, but he couldn't give up his scoundrel ways. Finn urged the intelligence broker to lead the way quickly, lest things change. Linden City is quite large, so we can't skimp on taxi fares at this time. The group boarded a carriage pulled by 2 chocobos, which resemble ostriches but are much larger, with thicker necks and legs. Their feathers are mostly dark green or dark blue. While they are not as long distance as horses, they are much stronger for short distances. About 15 minutes later, the group left the bustling inner ring of Linden City and arrived at the outer ring. After paying 6 copper coins, they were led by an information broker to an inconspicuous dark alley at the edge of the city wall. Gentlemen, they are at the liquor store around the next corner. The information broker couldn't understand what he had said wrong. Fine, you're coming with us. If there are any problems, I'll use your head as a sacrifice. Lister grabbed the intelligence dealer by the hair and dragged him along. Grandpa, I really didn't lie to you. It's a warehouse rented by a farming family in the city to store some homemade bulk wine to sell to big restaurants in the inner city. Those soldiers paid some money to stay there. There's no lie about it. The information brokers were terrified, their legs trembling. They decided to stick to doing business with adventurers from now on. These people with bounties on their heads were so paranoid that they were driving themselves crazy. The information was all being spread by intelligence brokers, and Finn thought that a massacre might be about to begin. 10 minutes later, inside the bulk wine warehouse, Finn and the knight hit it off immediately, feeling like they had known each other for a long time. They sat facing each other on the ground. They were both nobles, but they had both committed crimes and lost their titles, falling from grace. They had something in common. In the past, meals were served by maids, with nutritionists planning the menus, appetizers, main courses, desserts, and drinks, and elegant entertainment after meals. The content of their conversation can be summarized as follows. In his youth, he was a playboy who loved extravagance, fine houses, beautiful maids, flowers and birds, and was also addicted to tea, oranges, books, and poetry. He toiled for half his life, but it all turned into a dream. Now I am in exile overseas, living on a broken bed and in simple clothes, often going hungry. Looking back on 10 years ago, it feels like a different world. Lee, standing to the side, could hardly bear to listen anymore. The two of them were boasting to the skies, showing off how powerful and influential they used to be, and how they were now down on their luck and stuck in the mud. They had reached the sentimental part of middle-aged greasy men. The intelligence broker wasn't lying. These soldiers were indeed protecting the son of a high-ranking official from the Aran Empire. But the young master suddenly fell ill and died. How are they going to explain this back home? Hello? Your son suddenly died abroad? Who would believe that? This knight, named Claude, looked like a 3D model. He wore a full suit of steel armor befitting a proper knight, from his feet to his neck, completely armed. The armor had a subtle sheen, indicating that it was made with some special materials. The joints were crafted with exquisite skill, and it would cost at least 10 gold dragons to acquire. Perhaps this armor also had some specialized power circuitry. Originally, there was a crest of loyalty to a great noble family on his chest, but he had crossed it out after committing a crime. Claude looked extremely haggard, with an unshaven beard and lifeless eyes. There were also more than 20 trained regular soldiers in the warehouse, wearing chainmail under linen shirts, looking extremely emaciated. Claude's protection was inadequate, and these soldiers were naturally implicated as well. The Empire's influence extended throughout the entire Western continent. So where could they go? After much deliberation, they decided to go to sea. Well, Claude closed his eyes and sighed deeply, clenching his fists. He had been plagued by bad luck for 8 lifetimes, and now he was in a dilemma. Most of his money had been spent on bribes during his escape to the East Coast. Now he only had 5 gold dragons and some scattered silver coins left. He could manage on his own, living in anonymity for the rest of his life. But his brothers who had gone through thick and thin with him had no way to make a living. Should they go and farm? While chatting, Lister had no intention of recruiting these people. As high-ranking officials of the Aran Empire, this was no small matter. Furthermore, the combat strength of this regular army was not to be underestimated. If he didn't recruit them, neither would the other lowly pirates currently docked at Secret Port. There's nothing we can do to help. We won't be setting sail immediately either. We'll have to stay for at least half a month. Lister was ready to leave. He had things to do. Linden City Lord's work may come at any time, but the supplies on the ship need to be prepared first. We need to see what goods are missing and place orders with the wholesale market. The bulk wine warehouse still had a lot of bulk wine on hand, and Claude bought some as well. At this point, Archer was drinking it without any regard for the occasion. Lister was speechless. You drank someone else's wine, and then you just leave. To be honest, it's pretty awkward. Sai, I know you're pirates. We didn't board the ship to compete for a higher rank. We just wanted to make a living. We can wait half a month. The news won't get back so quickly. Claude was determined to finish the job quickly. If he didn't find a way out soon, it would be too late once the real people arrived. He also knew what Claude was worried about. With so many people on board, he was afraid that something might happen along the way. Fun remained silent. They got along well, and it was true that her brother had a tough time. She would provide all the support she could, except for help. Lister tried to find a way to politely decline. You used to be someone important. How could you do the work of a bandit? I do know someone who can take you by boat to the Far East Islands, Lister said coldly. The Emperor once went on a campaign and committed atrocities. We Arans have no good life in foreign lands. We are waiting for the Emperor to appoint an heir and grant a pardon to the whole country. If we have gold, we can go back and redeem our titles. Claude murmured. Fun remained non-committal, clearly still finding it difficult to accept the fact that she had become a bandit. She was still dreaming that petty thieves who were exiled could be pardoned. But how could major cases be pardoned? Without rules, there can be no order, and there must be corpses to show the people. What business is the son of that high-ranking official you're protecting here? Lister asked. Claude's next words were like a bolt from the blue, completely stunning Lister. If it's just a minor matter, it's easy to talk about. Chapter 22 XXII. Examination-Oriented Works. Young Master came to the duchy to discuss the construction of a railway with the king. He hoped to break through the Great Wall in the western part of the duchy to allow the railway to pass through and facilitate trade between the two countries. Before the matter was even discussed, the king's envoy asked us to stay at the villa until the next day. Unexpectedly, young Master suffered a heart attack that night. Alas, Claude became increasingly distressed, wondering how he had ended up in this situation. Finn also felt that this person was extremely unlucky. If it was just a matter of inadequate protection, it would be understandable, but to die at King Bima's palace was truly terrible. There was no way to explain it. Moreover, the matter they came to discuss was not trivial. This mess was too complicated to explain. Even if he didn't die when he returned, he would be ruined. His life was over. Is it possible that it was poisoned? Finn felt something was amiss. That day was indeed chaotic, with too many people and too many details that are unclear. It's too late to talk about it now. The disaster has already happened. Claude actually had this suspicion in mind, but he didn't dare to face reality and blamed himself. Lister's focus was elsewhere. Although these people were all smart, they had no precedent to follow. The experience summarized in the history books back home was that they might be about to get into serious trouble. Damn it, are you Aaron's going to devour this whole piece of land in the east? We're probably going to have another war. Lister lit a cigarette, guessing that this high-ranking official's son was, frankly, just a minor figure in the emperor's eyes, a mere scout sent to sound him out. He had long said that the current King Bhima was somewhat brain-dead and was really on the verge of collapse. It's just the death of an envoy. Even if he's of high status, what's the point of fighting a war? Archer was quite drunk again and completely oblivious to the atmosphere. Claude's face turned ugly, but he kept saying that the death of a messenger was nothing. You should rest. Finn wanted to hit someone. This was even more offensive than when she was drunk. Lister continued, war isn't about who kills more people and wins. It's about quickly integrating conquered territories into readily usable resources. Once the railway is built, it's far superior to canals. Logistics will be incredibly fast, and resources in occupied areas, squeezed out by sweatshops, can be readily mobilized to the front lines. It's like a human tailor can't compete with a spinning machine. The Principality of Bhima is already a bandit nation with people fleeing famine everywhere. If the railway is completed, let's put it this way. 10 days to march from the Great Wall to Linden City would be almost 20 times faster than the 6 months it took for the old king to be defeated and commit suicide. It directly connects to the ice-free ports on the east coast, eliminating middlemen and their markups. Claude hadn't really figured out what the purpose of building the railway was. He genuinely thought it was just to facilitate trade with the Far East Islands. If that were the real convenience, then conquering the islands would be even more convenient. Now that he understood, he was even more afraid to go back. How the hell was he going to explain himself? The people on your ship are quite impressive. They have such foresight. The first railway has just opened, and they've already thought of this. Claude was talking to Finn, thinking that Finn was the captain. Lister almost vomited blood upon hearing this. This is the captain, Lister, from the Far East Islands. Finn explained. Lister himself said that his hometown is in Far East, which is extremely far away. Claude laughed awkwardly and punished himself with a drink as an apology. Mainly, Finn was a very classy person, and he was particular about his clothes, manners, and speech. Lister, on the other hand, was an extraterrestrial being, so his gaming chair was incredibly comfortable that he had no manners and he was unkempt. He was as pirate as he wanted, and he was not as modern as Finn. As expected of the captain, he has such foresight. Claude also thought highly of this group of pirates. The information broker had introduced him to another group of people before. Although the other side didn't dare to recruit him, he didn't think much of that rabble. If you're willing to take us brothers in, as long as we don't kill civilians or righteous people, killing is fine too. I'm not exaggerating, but my men can wipe out those pirates in the port in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. We don't care about rank or status, we just want to make a living. Once things calm down, we'll earn enough money to redeem our titles. Claude spoke solemnly, and from Finn's words and Lister's earlier remarks, he felt that this group was far more promising than the previous one, a world apart. As for the drunkard they brought along, he was essentially a pirate. It's impossible for a group of literati to make money just by reciting poems. Finn gave Lister a wink. It was time to leave. Getting this kind of information wasn't a wasted trip. Things were indeed about to change drastically. If the Emperor really came, Heavenly Kingdom Port might be in trouble, and the pirates would starve. He had originally planned to seek refuge with Linden City. Lord's old acquaintances had reservations, but now it seems that going to the official chai is the way out. I follow 3 principles in doing things. The third principle is that I take money from whoever has it. There is no bullying of the weak as you mentioned. To be honest, 2 months ago, the Blue Bay Port Lord's family, all the cult members, used children as blood sacrifices. The whole family of more than 20 people. I chopped them up. Lister took a puff of his cigarette, getting quite animated as he spoke. Finn was speechless. It was time to go. What were you bragging about? Did you really want to get on the boat? That being said, Claude and his crew still sensed that the East Coast pirates were different from the petty thugs inland. They were real desperados. Lister, however, had other plans and decided to make use of these people. You can board the ship, but you'll have to prove your loyalty first. If you trust me, then accept these 10 gold dragons. Brothers, you've had a long journey, so take a good rest and enjoy yourselves in the city. It would be best if you stayed at the Menglon Hotel. I might need your help in 10 days or half a month. We'll meet at the Menglon Hotel. If it works out, we can sail the seas together and dominate the world. Lister opened his purse, revealing gleaming gold coins engraved with the dragon of eternity and time. He took out 10 coins. The dragon's emblem was far more popular than the old man himself. How can I accept money before I've even done anything? Claude thought this favor might be quite substantial. 10 gold dragons was a large sum. He hesitated. What favor is it? Just tell me. Lister was speechless. You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? The Lord hasn't even said anything yet, but I can only deal with it for now. What else could it be but resolving some business disputes? He answered calmly. 10 minutes later, the three of them left the alley. Captain, you're really confused. You gave me 10 gold coins to go and kill people, and I did a great job killing them. But when you give them to a stranger, he just takes the money and runs away. Archer looked disgusted. What do you know? Sometimes spending money on things that aren't worthwhile is the real deal. If you don't show your strength, who will pay attention to you? Where can those guys go? In Linden City, among those in the underworld, I'm the best, to be honest. Lister fiddled with his flintlock pistol, talking boastfully. Finn guessed Lister's thoughts correctly. In fact, Lister was also quite uncertain about the big job that was coming up. Although it was a bit unethical, he suggested that the group of people go and test the waters first when the job came up. Chapter 23 XEI Manglan Hotel. 20 years before the Battle of Great Wall, the Principality of Bima was still a kingdom. The undying old King Philip V heeded the Prime Minister's advice and, modeled after the Pedon Kingdom, established national academies in the central capital and the East Coast. This was intended to prevent talented individuals from remaining in the territories of their native noble families, weaken the rule of all lords, and attract fresh blood to serve the court. He also enacted the Enlightenment Act, allocating substantial funds from the national treasury to support education. Anyone who has a secondary education in any field and can pass the test to enter the college can enjoy this policy. Whether it's waiving boarding fees and tuition for students in rural areas, providing substantial financial aid for outstanding students, or even enabling high-achieving students to earn money while attending school for free, except for meals, the system offers various benefits. Those with real skills were guaranteed job placement after graduation, directly entering the imperial court and rising rapidly through the ranks. The Kingdom of Bima was once a paradise for test takers, with more and more outstanding talents emerging. Colleges sprang up all over the East Coast. During this prosperous era, there were no natural disasters, and the country's strength was unprecedented. Until the year 1274, according to the Allen calendar, the Great Wall defenses collapsed, and the Aran army stormed in. Philip V committed suicide in the isolated city, and his rightful successor, Philip VI, was lured and killed far from home. In the following years, apart from the National Arcane Academy in the capital city of Bima, all other academies were turned into compradors by the newly supported Puppet King and sold off cheaply to various noble families through a shareholding system. Although the teaching staff, equipment, and teaching materials are still available, the Enlightenment Act no longer exists. Due to the previous regime's system, many people in the Principality of Bima still firmly believe that studying is the only way out, and even with the exorbitant tuition fees that can drain the savings of a middle-class family, there are still quite a few students. This gave Micah an opportunity. Earning dozens of gold coins per job, Micah is definitely one of the richest people. In a luxury suite on the 10th floor of an upscale hotel in the inner ring of Linden City. Opening the curtains reveals a magnificent view of the harbor where the sea and sky meet. A spectacular sight of nearly 1,000 ships anchored, flocks of seagulls circling and calling out, and bustling streets arranged in a pleasing, orderly fashion. The interior is filled with the scent of rose-scented smoke. The solid wood flooring has a beautiful and clear lacquer finish, and the light purple fluorite crystal chandelier creates a spacious feel. The coffee table and chaise lounge are also made of precious wood, and there are also wainscoting panels with a square pattern and wallpaper with delicate floral designs. The balcony has a small swimming pool. On the large bed, Micah lay shirtless. The first round was over, and he calmly watched the 3 female college students playing and splashing in the pool. After a while, he became lost in thought, thinking about other things. These female college students came from various parts of the Bima Principality. 2 were Bima people, and the other was a demi-human with furry animal ears and a tail on her buttocks. Otherwise, she was no different from ordinary people. This race, with only a few animalistic features, was called the Isle. Unlike the native Western continent beastmen like Wren and Swan, they came from a landmass in the southern part of the Western continent. Legend has it that their ancestors desired the power of all things and spirits, which led to the entire race being cursed. But this is just a rumor. They live very normal lives and are a relatively good-looking race. All three girls were young and beautiful, with firm and supple skin. As they played, their thin clothes clung to their curves, becoming faintly visible as they were soaked with water. They had never been to such a high-class hotel before. It was on the 10th floor, with a small garden and swimming pool on the viewing balcony. It was hard to imagine how much it would cost to stay there for a day. Presumably, only nobles or knights and priests from out of town would be willing to stay in such a nice place. One of the female college students beckoned Micah over with her finger, thinking that Micah's background was quite impressive and that it would be perfect if she could become a long-term meal ticket. They never imagined that Micah was a ruthless pirate. Seeing the female college students flirting, Micah didn't waste any words, got out of bed and slowly walked towards the pool to start the second round. Evening. The setting sun was like blood. During the boarding action, a man sneaked into the ship's medicine compartment. Micah had to hack at his neck with an axe several times before he died. The look in the dead man's eyes was filled with frozen horror and endless regret and resentment. Micah woke up from a nightmare, which also woke Isle, one of the three women in bed. She rubbed her eyes groggily. "This room is available until 10 a.m. tomorrow." Micah left those words and hurriedly got dressed. The scholarship had already been paid at noon, at double the market price. Micah was used to paying in advance, not afraid of people running away. Otherwise, some sensitive women might be afraid of being taken advantage of and wouldn't provide good service. "How much longer will you stay in Linden City?" Al asked. "This person is generous and chooses top-notch places. Although his skin is rough, his appearance is still quite pleasing to the eye. He doesn't have any perverted hobbies. In short, he's a rare good person. Maybe it will be more than half a month before we meet again." Micah adheres to the principle of not doing the same thing twice, except for exceptionally high-quality projects. He got dressed and went out, arriving at the corridor. The hotel's public areas are also first class, with superior fluorite spotlights and landscape paintings hanging on both sides. Micah was going down the stairs to get back to the ship when she remembered that she needed to recruit crew members these days. If she ended up with a few people with infectious diseases, that would be a real problem. Just as Micah reached the first floor and was about to reach the lobby, he saw a group of fully armed soldiers who were not from Linden City. He immediately realized that his portrait had been printed and published. Out of professional habit, he quickly went up the stairs to the second floor and jumped out of the window. Pedestrians on the street were astonished to see the person who jumped from the second floor. The second floor was about 5 meters above the ground. Micah was not as agile as the others on the ship. In the emergency, he twisted his ankle and did not have time to reset or massage it. He limped away quickly and saw the taxi pulled by the Chocobo. He quickly flagged it down and drove towards the city gate. Hotel lobby. A standard room costs 4 silver coins per day, and you can upgrade to a room for an additional 4 silver coins. We also have rooms with a garden and pool available for 15 silver coins per day. The pretty waitress at the counter hadn't finished speaking. "What kind of hotel is this? They've even brought 15 silver coins. You can kill me and use my head to exchange for money." A sergeant in chainmail was shocked by the price. In a place as wealthy as Erin, even a decent hotel costs about the same. Can this place compare to Erin? "Don't cause trouble," Claude scolded. He figured that since it was that person who recommended the hotel, they should just stay there. He had already paid 10 gold dragons, so he wasn't worried about the cost. To redeem his title, he would need at least 800 gold dragons, including bribing officials. He would wait until things calmed down and then leave this foreign land once he had earned enough. "Book 5 standard rooms and we'll squeeze in. Those who need to sleep on the floor can sleep on the floor." Although the money was enough for each of them to have a room and stay for 10 days or half a month, it wasn't a good time to be wasteful. 10 gold dragons could be taken without hesitation, and that group of people were indeed the best choice at the moment. Could they possibly become sailors on merchant ships? They wouldn't earn that back even in 10,000 years. He has already written back to Erin to ask for help from his local connections. However, the situation is completely different when he was in his prime compared to when he is in adversity now. He doesn't know if any friends will be willing to help him, and they will probably try to distance themselves from him. Chapter 24 Ziv. The Pirate Ship. The peak time for visitors to Secret Port is in the morning and around 1 p.m. After that time, there are hardly any people around. Shadi yawned on the pier, her beauty stunning everyone. Some non-tungs on the smuggling boat next to her couldn't help but stare, completely mesmerized. Elves are absolutely the elite in the Western continent, and the Aaron Emperor has never taken any action against the elven forces in the westernmost part of the continent, adhering to the ancient covenant. If you keep looking, I'll go up there and chop you up. Shadi noticed that someone was watching him, and the group of people then looked away. Shadi belongs to the Dark Elf lineage, not the group from the western part of the continent, so their status is very different. He was expelled for committing a crime and put on his straw hat again. The market in the outlying towns of Linden City is held once a week, and today happened to be the busiest day, which is also when fugitives and refugees blend into the crowd. Even after slightly lowering the stringent standards, we only recruited a little over 30 people. It will only get harder and harder in the future. We can only hope that we can recruit more people during the next peak season. Fuma Kuqing's Revenge was finally starting to look like a large ship. The deck was bustling with activity and brightly lit. The sailors shouldn't be too tired on the first day. Basic cleaning and maintenance would suffice. Once the ship set sail, these people would have a much harder time. There's no one left. We're done and that's it. Ryan completely relaxed and gestured to the two men standing by the railing smoking, asking them to carry the table and chairs in front of him back onto the ship. If someone isn't used, wouldn't that be a huge loss? With Archer absent, Volman served as the emergency backup cook, whipping up a swamp stew. He simply boiled a pot of water, not bothering to chop the vegetables or meat, just cooking it all up. As long as he added spices and it had flavor, that was enough. For these men struggling to make a living, a sip of the broth, a piece of bread, and a bottle of nearly overflowing liquor after the meal was pure bliss. It was heaven. The treatment on board was indeed as AUX described, like that of a publicly traded company. When the two men came down, Ryan, being his immediate superior, was not afraid of being managed but of being controlled. He frantically flattered them, which Ryan found quite pleasing and made him very happy. What's the use of sweet talk? Do you think I like hearing it? Get to work quickly. There's no way to make money on a pirate ship by being charming and smooth-talking. Less talk, more action. Ryan kicked each of the two guys once, speaking irritably. The two men, still smiling obsequiously, carried the goods back to the boat. When will Lord's big job finally come? Shadi complained that although only a day had passed, this sense of uncertainty was the most agonizing. Didn't you say it would take a month? We'll need at least 10 days to prepare before we can set sail. You can't wait until the last minute. Don't worry, that's an ultimatum. It'll be at the latest 20 days. But listen to me, the later the better. Ideally, you shouldn't come for 6 months, or even better, never come at all. Ren made a judgment. You haven't come for half a year. How can you say that? How are all these people supposed to make a living? Shadi was speechless. Your elven brain isn't as good as my werewolf brain. Lord is a man who's not short of money. If he wants to keep us brothers around, he has to support us. How about we make a bet? At the latest, within 5 days, he'll definitely come over with gifts to keep us from leaving. Rain took out a cigarette and lit it. Shadi used to be a smuggler of firearms, dealing with bandits, mountain bandits, and rebels. It was normal that he didn't understand the Lord's generosity. When he was in the thriving adventurer group, he was often invited to the homes of nobles for dinner. If he wanted to kill a monster that was causing trouble around the territory, it was just a matter of saying a word. He had long since figured out the nature of those lords. What you say makes a lot of sense. Shadi had to admit that the people on the ship weren't very cultured, but they were all incredibly shrewd. At this moment, Micah walked back and saw that the large oil lamp on the ship was lit, and all the auxiliary lighting lamps were also lit, making the ship brightly lit. There were about 30 people on the deck, mostly humans and a few other races. There are a lot more people now. Micah said that he didn't know how many would be left after a year. The old guys like Ryan and Shadi were skilled and tough, but once these people boarded the ship, their fate was uncertain. How about it? Ryan grinned mischievously, knowing that Micah was sure to have a wonderful time today. What do you mean, how is it? Micah was quite impressed. After all these years, couldn't these people come up with just 3 words as their opening line? She herself had developed a conditioned reflex to reply with those 5 words. Of course, it is the dark, dense forest that everyone longs for. Rain uttered an extremely lewd statement, adding, Dark primal god, activate. Micah's forehead creased with annoyance. Sometimes even she couldn't understand the words Lister was using. This dog-brained guy could learn anything and apply it to new situations, updating his own version on his own. Hee, it's all right. Micah gave a perfunctory reply. Not bad? Fuck, all the normal people should go explode. Ryan hissed a puff of smoke and continued. If you say it's not good, then the experience is just so-so. If you say it's just that kind of thing, then the experience is okay. If you say it's okay, then you're on cloud 9. Micah was speechless and ignored the madman, boarding the boat herself. The deck was bustling with activity. Black Sail's introductory lesson will definitely start with teaching these self-important fugitives a lesson, using the guise of a friendly exchange to show them their true colors and prevent them from causing trouble in the future. Morrison is sparring with several sailors, fighting hand-to-hand. The outcome was inevitable. Even against 5 or 6 people, Morrison could easily take them down in less than a few seconds, averaging more than 1 per second. They were all lying on the ground, spitting out water, their internal organs churning. You call this how you operate in the underworld? You're only empty-handed. If you had weapons, you'd all be dead by now. Morrison took a purple berry from the fruit plate and chewed on it. Tasted good that day, so he sent a lackey to town to buy some more. Micah watched the show, thinking, it's not that these guys are weak, but who the hell can beat you? I'm not convinced. If I had the right equipment, I might not be so sure. A 2-meter-tall sailor with a bald head and a skull tattoo said, to get on a ship, you need to get some kind of official position. Being a laborer is so boring. Morrison is one of the shorter members of the Black Sail group. Although he is over 1.8 meters tall, he is far shorter than AUX and others. Ha! Morrison said with interest. Bring whatever you want, even a musket. You said it yourself. The tattooed giant picked up a scimitar that suited his hand and, taking the initiative, slashed directly at Morrison without giving him a chance to speak. Bang! The throwing knife flew like a cannonball. No one saw how it came about. The curved knife was sent flying, spinning wildly for more than 20 meters before falling into the sea. The tattooed man knelt on the ground, screaming. His wrist was bent at an unnatural angle, the force of which dislocated it, leaving it red and swollen. It was an eye-opener for everyone. It was simply amazing. Also, don't say things like, I'm not convinced anymore. On this ship, absolute obedience is the rule. Let me emphasize again, absolute obedience. Now that you're on this pirate ship, your head is tied to your waistband. You need to be careful with your words. People who don't know their place won't have a good ending. Morrison spoke coldly, his half-face, burned and scarred with more than 10 cuts, looking extremely horrifying. For a moment, no one on the deck dared to speak. Hey, Brother Shah, stop bullying these newbies. You're scaring them. Don't mess with him in the future either. Eat and drink as usual. The warehouse is almost overflowing with liquor. Tonight, everyone can have 2 more bottles. Okay? Let's open the champagne. As soon as Ryan boarded the ship, he saw Morrison messing with the newcomer. Brother Shah was such a ruthless guy, he was going to leave a bad impression and make him unable to work properly. The sailors on deck were all amazed. This ship was truly overflowing with wealth, with food and drink served as if they were free. The tattooed man was not a narrow-minded person. I've long heard that the Black Sail is full of exceptional people, and it certainly lives up to its reputation. I'm sure I'll be right to follow you guys. I'm willing to stay on the ship until I die. The tattooed giant stood up and couldn't help but admire him. Morrison didn't reply. He didn't want to befriend someone so insignificant. Hey, can't you say anything auspicious? You have to say auspicious things on a ship. What's with all this talk about dying? Let's pop the champagne. Ren sent a few men to the warehouse to get the wine. Micah sighed and told the tattooed man to go down to the pharmacy so he could have his bones set and some medicine applied. Chapter 25 XXV. Human Poison. Dinner time has passed. It was almost midnight, time to rest. Secret port inside the cave is eerily quiet. Ship's medical room. The space, which is more than 20 square meters, is neatly arranged. The open bookshelves without doors are filled with a wide variety of Northern Great Prison medical artifacts. In addition to the entrance door, there is a side door leading to the pharmacy. On the sideboard were plant-themed oil paintings, and on top of them, in an iron tray, were a series of tools such as chisels and tweezers. Micah, with a stethoscope still hanging from her chest, was reading a book about anatomy. It's not that Micah is working so hard to improve herself, but rather that the author of the initial manuscript for this book is quite renowned in academia. The details of each organ's condition are drawn like works of art, revealing every nuance. It's hard to imagine how many practices it took to achieve such a result. The manuscript also details the progress of the heart's operation and the specific details of the internal organ's circulatory work. Like a comic strip, allowing for a detailed understanding of the underlying patterns. The kerosene lamp was rather dim, so Micah opened the lid, added some fuel, and wiped the dust off the glass cover with a silk scarf. Just then, a knock came at the door. The person outside seemed a little reserved, speaking softly so as not to disturb Micah. "Come in." Micah thought it was some newcomer, and that guys like Ryan Shoddy wouldn't be so polite. Then a middle-aged man with greasy hair and a scraggly beard walked in, his face plastered with a fawning smile. "Are you feeling unwell? Or are you addicted to drugs? If you're thinking of asking me for some painkillers, I advise you to give up that idea as soon as possible." Micah sat in the chair, speaking in a flat tone, noting that he looked weak and might be a drug addict. Although Black Sail doesn't do that kind of business, some smuggling ships that are currently docked at secret port source their goods from the Heavenly Kingdom port wholesale market and then distribute them to local smugglers on the East Coast. It's not that Lister isn't envious of the money made in that business. It's so much easier to just rob someone after they've finished their business. All that coded communication and bribing people for transportation is so stupid. 3 years ago, Lister had his eye on this business and started ambushing people in the shipping lanes to steal from them. Ill-gotten gains must be confiscated. However, Black Sail's single ship couldn't possibly thwart all the drug lords on the East Coast. It was merely a drop in the ocean and had no impact on the normal operation of the market. These hallucinogens came in a variety of forms, including tablets, powders, and soups, and were concocted from various plants and the glands of magical beasts with neurotoxins. Once experienced, they were unforgettable. The number of addicts in the Principality of Bima was outrageous. The painkillers from the Western continent aren't like cough syrups used to treat depression. They're often extremely potent, the kind that won't make you cry out even if you get cut. Micah was already quite adept at this, having encountered this situation no less than 100 times. Basically, 1 in 10 pirates would do something like this, trying to risk their lives to continue consuming the drug. "No!" The man chuckled awkwardly, standing there extremely reservedly. The words he wanted to say stuck in his throat, unsure how to begin. "So you're feeling unwell. What are the symptoms?" Micah put down her anatomy book and put on her glasses. Even though there were chairs available, the man didn't sit down. He scratched his forehead and said, "Actually, I don't have money to see a doctor, so I came to the ship to treat my leg." Micah smiled upon hearing this, thinking it was something serious. "Don't worry. As long as it's not a serious illness, it won't affect your normal work. In fact, free medical care is a standard benefit for Black Sail crew members before setting sail, regardless of which leg it is." The man pointed to his left leg. Micah was speechless. How could he be so stupid? "I meant for you to roll up your pants leg and take a look." The man hesitated for a moment, then sat down in the chair and, with great difficulty, rolled up his left trouser leg. When he reached his knee, the pus and blood from the wound had already stuck to the linen. With each inch he rolled it up, he took away a bit of skin and flesh. When he finally reached his thigh, it was a blurry mess, and his entire thigh was a dark purple, filled with bruises and pus. The man lowered his head, his eyes slightly vacant. Micah squinted, remained silent for a long time, and then took off her glasses. "You shouldn't have waited until so late to think about treatment." Micah picked up a pair of scissors and cut off a strip of torn flesh from the man's leg, without the man feeling any pain. The dark purple and bluish blood streaks spread into a net-like pattern and continued to spread over time. Micah had worked as a forensic pathologist and knew about trauma traces. Her thigh was probably slashed, although it didn't damage any tendons or bones, and she could still exercise. No action was taken until the wound became completely infected and ulcerated. Micah touched the infected area around the wound with the scissors again. The man was in so much pain that fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead and his lips turned pale. Micah couldn't imagine how he managed to get through the boarding inspection. AUX had a habit of making things difficult for people, insisting on making sure that there were no problems with their limbs before letting them on board. This guy actually managed to slip through AUX's nose. "Is it still curable?" The man spoke weakly, having already sensed the outcome from Micah's subtle movements, but still clinging to a sliver of hope. "You've developed sepsis now. Your skin nerves are completely necrotic, and your muscles and bones are also necrotic to some extent. You're just holding on." Micah pondered for a moment, then reached into his pocket for his money pouch and pulled out 15 silver coins. "I'm sorry, I can't help you, and you can't stay on the ship any longer. This is money I'm giving you personally. It's too late now, but you can sleep on the ship for one more night. Tomorrow at dawn, go to the city and find a doctor. Use this money to have him amputate your leg." Upon hearing the word amputation, the man exhaled a few breaths, his lips clenched tightly, and asked again, "Is amputation really necessary?" Micah spoke coldly, beginning to urge him to leave. "Only amputation can save your life, and the sooner the better. If you delay more than a week, even High Priest can't save you. Go now." The man paused for a moment, then smiled wryly. "No need, I still have some money on me. I'm borrowing it from you now, but I don't know when I'll be able to pay it back." "Thank you, doctor." The man didn't try to hold on any longer. With his leg throbbing in excruciating pain, he limped out of the ship's medical room and closed the door. Micah took a deep breath and held her forehead. There are all kinds of people. Micah was speechless. They wouldn't even take the money that was offered for free. What a ridiculous idea. He had long since become indifferent to these things, so he turned off the kerosene lamp and prepared to go to sleep. Aside from Volman, who slept in the warehouse, the core crew members all had their own bedrooms, and Micah, a highly skilled individual, received special care, having the largest room besides Lister and Finn. Micah left the ship's medical room and returned to her bedroom. After spending the afternoon going through 2 rounds of activities with several people, Micah was also a little tired and fell asleep soon after lying down on the bed. The next morning, the sky was just beginning to lighten. The rooms on the first deck below deck had portholes that let in light, while the sailors slept in the dark, communal rooms on the lower decks. Micah was awakened by the noise of a group of people running outside the door. Alert, she immediately jumped out of bed, still wearing only her pajamas, grabbed a short-handled axe from the bedside table, and went outside. Seeing that none of the sailors had any weapons, he breathed a sigh of relief. He grabbed a sailor at random and asked, "What happened?" The sailor replied, "Someone has hanged himself down there. We don't know who killed him." Micah frowned and said, "Don't go down there and get involved. Go find the captain right away." Micah herself followed the other sailors down to the lower decks. A short while later, more than a dozen sailors were seen carrying lanterns to illuminate the passageway, while a man was found hanged from the lintel with a rope around his neck. As the waves pushed the ship, his body swayed slightly. It was the man who came to treat his leg last night.